How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Down to Earth with Christian Harloff. This is our daily UAP news channel. This is where we cover the stuff that's going on. There's tons of it. There's tons of news, and there's just these kind of little bite-sized nuggets that I'm going to give you. And the first is this big story that's been going around. If you're following this story, if you're following the phenomenon at all, then you know the name David Grusch. He is a UAP whistleblower. He was one of the main players at the public hearing last summer, and he's part of the Soul Foundation with Dr. Gary Nolan. He's continuously wants disclosure, and he's fighting for disclosure. And we've had Sean Kirkpatrick out there who put out this report not too long ago, and people are saying, well, that doesn't seem very genuine. And then there's well, don't worry about it, because David Grusch is going to have an op-ed that comes out, and it's going to blow people's mind. And it's coming out in February. Well, guess what? It's March, and we don't have it just yet. So where is it? Where is this report? Well, both Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp on their Weaponized podcast addressed that. Now, both of them were right behind Grusch at the hearing. If you see it, you can see both. George Knapp, obviously, legendary reporter in the UAP. Some say he is the first UFO reporter. And Jeremy Corbell, who broke the jellyfish, who was scouting and talking to Grusch way before he came out and had any interviews with anybody. So these guys are in the know. So here is a conversation that they had on their show. Here you go.
But before we get into that, is that the message you got from everybody we met with? Is that if we bring people in, they will do it confidentially?
Yes, but, more direct, at least what I heard from multiple people that we talked to was there's a little bit of frustration. You see it on social media and criticism of what's going on right now. Frustration of people who say, hey, where's the evidence? Where's the firsthand witnesses who can show us where these things are, where the crash retrieval stuff is, where the reverse engineering programs are, the saucers, the bodies, where is it? We heard that again and again from folks here in positions of power in Washington. We want it. We'd like to see it, but we're not so far. And, there's multiple reasons for that. The first is what you just mentioned, is there are witnesses who have direct firsthand knowledge, some of whom are on the record behind closed doors, have come forward already, but they are scared. They're afraid of going forward and crossing a line from which there's no coming back. And they have good reason to be, because we know some of the things that have happened to them. I was hoping that maybe you could share with our listeners sort of a status report on Dave Grusch. We do stay in touch with them on a regular basis, and the whole world's been waiting for this op-ed that was promised that he was going to put out in February that was going to be fairly explosive or revelatory. We haven't seen it yet. And Dave has testified and said in public multiple times he has firsthand witnesses who do work in these programs, that he has brought them forward. So give me a sense of, where is that? Where is it? When do we get to see it?
Okay. So, George, I want people to talk for themselves. But with that said, I think I can surmise a few things, right? First of all, I'd like to clarify something. We've been pretty clear. What is firsthand knowledge? That comes in different forms. I've never said that David Grusch didn't have firsthand knowledge.
Right.
So what does that mean? So you see, so some people talked to us this week and they said, documents are a version of firsthand knowledge because we can run those down. Of course, we want somebody working on the program currently to step forward to us. We bring them in. Now, people have, but the question is, what are the repercussions? David Grusch, I would argue that David Grusch does have some firsthand knowledge, and that's something that we've talked about before. So I'm okay saying that. Sometimes if you see photographs that are internal to your agency, that's a firsthand knowledge situation. So Dave will probably talk more later about his understanding. He answered that really carefully in Congress. So with that said, look, I told you I'm done. Dave's a friend. It's like Bob Lazar. Like, we vetted David Grusch way before he came out. He is who he says he is. He did what he said he did. He found what he said he did. He found what he said that he found. But there's more to it. So everybody wants to hear an op-ed from David Grusch. Like, it'd be amazing. Like, New York Times op-ed. Then you counter the bullshit that you heard from like people like what's his name, Derpatrick. So there you go. He could do that. Part of me wonders, is there a bigger card that could be played? And I don't know, George.
What could you mean? Possibly mean?
Just saying that there may be a bigger card.
All right, so they kind of hinted something at the very end that maybe he's not doing this because something bigger coming. And what would he actually be talking about? Well, something at the hearing that was interesting and could be something that he's talking about is something when Representative Moskowitz was talking to him. And they were talking about satellites and other things. And well, here's that clip.
Satellite imagery. Let's talk about satellite imagery. We have satellites all over the place, some that we're aware of and many that we're not aware of, right? We're taking pictures of everything at every point and second. Mr. Grusch, are you aware, do you have direct knowledge, or have you talked to people with direct knowledge that there are satellite imagery of these events?
That was one of my primary tasks at NGA, since we process, exploit, and disseminate that kind of information. I've seen multiple cases, some of which, to my understanding, and of course I left NGA in April, so that's my information cutoff date. But I personally reviewed both what we call overhead collection and from other strategic and tactical platforms that I could not even explain prosaically. And I have a degree in physics, by the way, as well. And I am aware that you guys have not seen these reports, unfortunately. And I don't know why.
Do you have direct knowledge, or you had spoken to people with direct knowledge that this imagery applies to crash sites, crash imagery?
I can't discuss that in an open session.
All right. So after all of that, as I said, there's that video in particular of what could come out in that. And to further that a little bit more, if you're watching the UAP big thing, UAP Tuesdays, then you'll know Pavel. Pavel, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Good, man. Let's talk about this. So as I said in the video, here's this op-ed that they said Grusch is going to do. And the way that they hint at it in Weaponized is like there's something else coming. Maybe something bigger. Maybe that's why he's not doing it. So let me ask you two things here. One, what's your opinion on why you think he hasn't put it out? And two, what could it contain if it does come out?
Well, the reason he hasn't put it out seems fairly simple to me, because he has the example of two leakers, not whistleblowers, leakers, who the government has pursued and jailed after that. One of them they didn't jail because he lives in Russia, and that's Edward Snowden. And the other one is Julian Assange, which we all know the story of him. And that's the main reason why he doesn't want to mess it up, because he's already risking his career doing this, but he doesn't want to risk going to jail, obviously.
So what you're saying is that he just has to be very careful of what he can say, because he doesn't want to put something out in the op-ed. He's got to be very meticulous about it and make sure that if there's anything in there that could put him in that Snowden, Assange category, he doesn't want that. And we don't want that, because we want him to be able to, testify at the next public hearing whenever those happen.
Yeah, and that's the only way to do it, really, because we need to understand, too, because there's a lot of people, and myself included, who don't trust governments. But it's also important to note that the government is not just like a giant monolith, It has good and bad people in it. And perhaps what I gather from all the sources that I do have is that Grusch is dealing with some good side of the government, and there's currently an inner struggle within the government to prevent this, So he has to deal with all of that in order to get it approved by DOPSR.
Well, what do you think is going to be in this thing that he's going to be able to actually do?
What I think is that he's been setting it up with all these interviews that he's done. he left a little nugget on Tucker. He left a little nugget on Joe Rogan. He said something to News Nation about having firsthand knowledge, and then he also said some stuff during the hearings, which alluded at him having like real firsthand knowledge of watching the stuff like himself. Like whether it's technology or craft or these images from the satellites that they allegedly have of like real close-up images in 4K. I think he's going to talk about that stuff.
Well, I mean, even Corbell said it in his thing that he pretty much said that Grusch does have firsthand knowledge. He does. There's certain things he can talk about and certain things he can't. So they keep talking about this op-ed, how it's supposed to be like explosive. It's supposed to be the thing that's going to blow the roof off the place. And then you get the follow-up by them at the end of it where they tease it like, well, what could that be? And it's like I don't love that approach, to be honest, because it's almost like, well, we know, but we're not going to tell you. And it's like, I get it, they can't tell us, but it's like, well, what could that be? It's like, because if that never happens and you guys are sitting on that, then we're never going to know. So what is it?
There's also one thing though, talking to Lakatsky and Kelleher, you can realize that there's people who are kind of supporting disclosure, but are also against it for some weird reason that we still don't understand.
Well, no,
that also jumps to me.
I think you said it perfect on the show on Tuesday. I think we do understand. They have their toys and they don't want anybody coming after it.
Yeah, that's basic. But there's also that option that Attack Peter gave us, which is there may be something really scary that they want to protect us from. That's also another option, but who knows what it is really.
All right. Thanks, Pavel. That's what we got here today on that one. So, as I said in the video, when do you think Grusch's op-ed is going to come out? Do you think it is? Was there something that happened that maybe they said, maybe don't put this out? And was it because he was going to get himself in trouble? Or was it because of what George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell hinted at, that something bigger was coming? Make sure that you put your comments in there and subscribe to this channel. This is our daily UAP news channel. We have our show on Tuesdays. That's on my channel. You can find the link in the description. That's the big thing. That is a full hour and a half podcast where we cover all of the news for the current week. But here's where you can get the little tidbits. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank Pavel for being here as well.